My daughter texted, "Dad, Mom's been cheating. I have proof," while I was deployed overseas. I replied, "Thank you for looking out for our family." Then I arranged a homecoming surprise her mom never saw coming. The look on her face when I walked in with cops and caught her red-handed was priceless. I, 34M, thought I was living the American dream until a single text message shattered everything I believed about my family. The message came through at 0300 hours local time while I was stationed at a forward operating base in Eastern Europe. My daughter's words glowed on my phone screen like a bomb waiting to detonate. "Dad, Mom's been cheating. I have proof. Send me your secure email. This is serious." My hands trembled as I stared at those words. After 15 years of marriage and 2 combat deployments, I thought my wife and I had weathered every storm. Our daughter, now 16, had always been mature for her age, but this felt like the kind of revelation that could destroy everything. I immediately responded that I trusted her judgment and asked her to send whatever evidence she had discovered. What arrived in my encrypted email an hour later made my blood run cold. The photos were time-stamped over the past 3 months. My wife entering a downtown hotel with a man I recognized as her yoga instructor. Leaving his apartment building early morning. Text message screenshots showing intimate conversations and plans to meet while I was deployed. Bank statements showing expensive dinners and hotel charges I had never authorized. But the final piece of evidence hit me like artillery fire. A recorded phone conversation where my wife explicitly discussed her plans to file for divorce and take half of everything, including my military pension, the moment I returned home. She laughed about how I had no idea what was happening and called me naive for trusting her completely. My daughter had apparently been suspicious for weeks after noticing changes in our family's financial accounts and her mother's sudden interest in evening yoga classes. Being tech-savvy, she had installed monitoring software on the family computer and recovered deleted text messages from cloud backups. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound I had experienced in combat. But what enraged me most was hearing my wife mock my trust and plan to destroy me financially while I was serving our country overseas. I spent the next 72 hours carefully planning my response. My deployment was scheduled to end in 2 weeks, but I had accumulated enough leave to return home early without notice. My wife expected me home on the originally scheduled date, giving me the perfect opportunity to catch her completely off guard. First, I contacted my military legal advisor and a civilian divorce attorney recommended by my unit's family support group. I learned that my wife's affair, combined with her recorded statements about intentionally deceiving me for financial gain, would significantly impact any divorce proceedings in our state. Next, I arranged for a private investigator to begin documenting additional evidence of the affair. I also had my financial accounts secured and began quietly gathering documentation of all marital assets. The private investigator's report confirmed my worst suspicions. My wife and her yoga instructor had been meeting regularly at his apartment and various hotels throughout the city. They had even taken a weekend trip to a coastal resort using money from our joint savings account. More disturbing was the discovery that my wife had been researching military divorce procedures and had consulted with an attorney about maximizing her settlement. She had apparently been planning this betrayal for months, possibly since before my current deployment began. My daughter proved to be an invaluable ally throughout this process. She provided additional evidence and helped coordinate my early return without alerting her mother. Despite being just 16, she demonstrated remarkable maturity and understanding of the situation's gravity. The plan was simple but effective. I would return home 3 days early, during a time when the private investigator had confirmed my wife typically met her lover at his apartment. I arranged for local police to accompany me, ostensibly for a wellness check, which would provide official documentation of whatever we discovered. Update 1. The flight home felt endless. Every minute stretched like an eternity as I imagined confronting the woman who had destroyed our family while I was defending our country. My daughter met me at the airport, her face a mixture of sadness and determination that broke my heart. She updated me on the latest developments during our drive home. My wife had become increasingly careless about hiding her activities, often staying out until late evening under the pretense of yoga classes or book club meetings. She had also started making expensive purchases without consulting our budget, apparently preparing for her new life. Most painfully, my daughter revealed that my wife had been telling her friends that she was essentially already single and just waiting for the right moment to make it official. She had even begun introducing her yoga instructor as her boyfriend to people who didn't know our family. We arrived at our house to find it empty, exactly as expected. My daughter confirmed that her mother was supposed to be at another yoga session, though we both knew the truth. I used this time to photograph the current state of our home and gather additional personal documents I would need for the legal proceedings. The private investigator called to confirm that my wife had just entered her lover's apartment building. This was our moment. I drove to the address with 2 police officers who had agreed to accompany me for the wellness check. My hands remained steady despite the emotional storm raging inside me. 15 years of marriage, 2 children, countless promises of faithfulness, all about to end in a confrontation I never imagined I would face. Update 2. The yoga instructor lived in a trendy downtown apartment complex with keypad entry. Fortunately, another resident was leaving as we arrived, allowing us access to the building. The police officers knocked on the apartment door while I stood behind them, my heart hammering against my chest. The man who answered looked exactly like the photos my daughter had provided. His face went white when he saw the police officers, and he began stammering about not knowing why they were there. When I stepped into view behind them, his expression shifted to pure terror. I calmly explained to the officers that I was conducting a wellness check on my wife, who was supposed to be at this location. The yoga instructor tried to claim he didn't know anyone by my wife's name, but his nervous behavior made it obvious he was lying. One of the officers asked if we could enter to ensure everyone inside was safe and accounted for. The man had no choice but to step aside, and what we found inside left no doubt about what had been happening. My wife emerged from the bedroom wearing nothing but a bathrobe, her face cycling through shock, fear, and anger in rapid succession. The apartment was clearly set up for a romantic evening, with candles, wine, and intimate music playing in the background. The look of absolute horror on her face when she realized I had caught her in the act was something I will never forget. All her careful planning, all her deception, all her mockery of my trust, it all crumbled in that single moment. She immediately began trying to explain the situation, claiming it wasn't what it looked like, and that she could explain everything. But the evidence was overwhelming, and we all knew exactly what we had discovered. The police officers documented the scene and took statements from everyone present. My wife's attempts to minimize the situation or claim innocence became increasingly desperate as the reality of her situation sank in. Her yoga instructor tried to claim they were just friends studying meditation techniques, but the romantic setup of his apartment and my wife's state of undress made that explanation laughably absurd. Update 3. The aftermath moved swiftly. My wife's attempts to contact me over the following days were met with silence as my attorney advised complete communication cutoff, except through legal channels. She tried reaching out through friends and family members, but I had already informed them of the situation and requested they not serve as intermediaries. The divorce proceedings began immediately. The evidence my daughter had gathered, combined with the official police documentation of my wife's affair, significantly strengthened my position. Her recorded statements about planning to take half of everything also proved crucial in demonstrating her premeditated deception. My wife's attorney initially tried to argue that military deployments put undue stress on marriages and that her affair was somehow understandable given the circumstances. However, the recorded evidence of her mocking my service and planning financial deception made such arguments ineffective. The financial investigation revealed additional disturbing details. My wife had been systematically moving money from our joint accounts to a separate account I didn't know existed. She had also been using our credit cards for expenses related to her affair, essentially forcing me to pay for her betrayal. More heartbreaking was learning that my wife had been telling our younger son, who was only 12, that daddy might not be coming home from deployment. She had apparently been psychologically preparing him for our family's dissolution while I was overseas serving our country. My daughter remained my strongest supporter throughout this process. Despite the emotional toll of seeing her family destroyed, she maintained that exposing the truth was the right choice. Her maturity and moral clarity during this crisis made me incredibly proud, while simultaneously breaking my heart that she had to experience such adult problems at her age. The custody arrangements heavily favored me due to my wife's demonstrated poor judgment and deceptive behavior. The court recognized that her affair and financial deception raised serious questions about her fitness as a primary caregiver. My wife eventually moved in with her yoga instructor, though their relationship reportedly became strained under the pressure of public scrutiny and legal consequences. Several mutual friends cut ties with her after learning the full extent of her deception and betrayal. The financial settlement was far more favorable to me than it would have been under normal circumstances. Her recorded statements about planning to take half of everything actually worked against her, as the court viewed them as evidence of gold-digging behavior rather than genuine marital partnership. Final update. 6 months after that devastating text message, I'm rebuilding my life with my children in a new home. My daughter has continued to excel academically and seems to be processing the family upheaval remarkably well. My son required counseling to deal with the confusion and abandonment issues caused by his mother's behavior, but he's making steady progress. The experience taught me valuable lessons about trust, vigilance, and the importance of maintaining strong relationships with my children. My daughter's courage in exposing the truth prevented me from walking blindly into a devastating financial ambush that could have ruined my future. My ex-wife occasionally attempts to re-establish contact, usually when she's having problems with her yoga instructor boyfriend. These attempts are firmly rebuffed, as I have no interest in providing emotional support to someone who betrayed our family so completely. The military community has been incredibly supportive throughout this ordeal. Several fellow service members shared similar stories of deployment-related betrayals, and their guidance helped me navigate the legal and emotional challenges more effectively. I've started dating again, though very cautiously. The experience made me much more aware of red flags and the importance of character assessment in potential partners. My children's approval will be a crucial factor in any future serious relationship. My ex-wife's affair ultimately revealed her true character, and I'm grateful to have discovered it before she could inflict even more damage on our family. While the betrayal was painful, it also freed me from a marriage built on deception and allowed me to focus on being the best father possible to my children. The yoga instructor eventually broke up with my ex-wife after realizing he had become involved with someone willing to destroy her family for personal gratification. He apparently decided that such behavior made her an unsuitable long-term partner, which seemed like poetic justice given the circumstances. Today, my children and I are stronger, closer, and more honest with each other than ever before. We've learned that families built on truth and mutual respect can survive even the most devastating betrayals, while relationships built on deception and selfishness will ultimately crumble under their own weight. The homecoming surprise I arranged for my ex-wife ended up being the beginning of a much better life for the family members who truly mattered.